overly generous in your comments. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all coming. I appreciate our sponsors. I want to thank not only Steve but Forbes Media, as well as the Singfields, the Beausarges, the Trotts, and the U.S. Chamber. I appreciate our governors being here. It's a pretty cool job, isn't it? Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing you. I want to thank my old friend Henry Kissinger. It's good to see you, Dr. Kissinger. Thank you for your time. I appreciate those who serve on our board. I appreciate our supporters. I want to thank Mark Langdale and Jim Glassman and Amity for helping get this conference going. We're proud to host the conference. It is a part of our mission to enlighten and to achieve results. You know, I toured the facility the other day. These are for the supporters. I went to the facility the other day, and it is an awesome building on a great campus. I mean, Robert Stern, who is a world-class architect, has done a fantastic job. The gardens are going to be beautiful. I look forward to the opening in April of 2013. And so the Bush Center is comprised of three parts. One is the library and archives. In the library and archives, we'll have over 4 million photos. We'll have tens of thousands of boxes of materials and hundreds of millions of emails, all stored and sorted at some point in time so they can be analyzed by historians. Secondly, there'll be a museum. Mark mentioned the museum. It'll be really about presidential decision making. I mean, the museum, frankly, is not going to last if it's only about me. It'll be interesting for a brief period of time, but the museum is going to be about like principles and how you make decisions. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, for example, we got a piece of the World Trade Center that is going to remind people of that fateful day. Here's the lesson, by the way. In life, you're going to be dealt a hand you don't want to play. It's going to happen to all of us. It certainly happens when you're president. The question is not you can be dealt a hand. The question is how do you play it? And then there's the Institute. So when you get out of office, it's kind of a daunting feeling. I mean, you've served, you've given it your all, and all of a sudden you got some years ahead of you. And I have decided to stay out of the limelight. I mean, I had plenty of the limelight. I don't think it's good, frankly, for our country to undermine our president, and I don't intend to do so. But I do intend to remain involved in areas that I'm interested in. And so the Bush Institute, run by Glassman, is an opportunity to be engaged in public policy in a positive way. So the building isn't open, but our institute is. And every day our scholars and fellows and directors come to work to advance this mission. How do we promote freedom? And how do we honor traditional values, timeless values? And so our programs are designed, I think you'll see, or if you study our institute, our programs are designed with clear goals in mind, and we tend to hold people to account. In other words, we want people who contribute to our institute to know that we're going to achieve concrete results that have an effect on our country and on the world. In order to have a prosperous and more free America, we got to have an education system that works. And so the Bush Center is a part of a reform movement that insists upon accountability as a key to educational excellence. And one of the things we're doing is that we're focusing on one of the key components of educational excellence, and that is how to better recruit and train our nation's principals. We believe that all human life is precious and know that we have a calling to help save lives in the developing world. I believe we're better people when we serve the admonition, to whom much is given, much is required. So at the Bush Center, we're going to act out that call. Here's one way we're doing it. We've started what's called the Pink Ribbon, Red Ribbon campaign, and that is to diagnose and treat cervical cancer on the continent of Africa. We've assembled a group of public and private partners, and we're getting after it with measurable results. We believe that all freedom is universal. In other words, we strongly believe in the concept of the universality of freedom, that deep in everybody's soul is a desire to be free. So I'm not surprised in the Middle East when given a chance, people demand their God-given rights. We recently announced a one-of-a-kind place, an archive, a freedom archive, where dissidents, political prisoners, heroic figures in the March of Freedom can, where their stories will be stored and made available over the internet. People say, what are you doing that for? Well, I think it's important. We think it's important to record heroic figures like Václav Havel or Ellen Johnson Sirleaf or the Dalai Lama as a reminder to our fellow citizens that we cannot become isolationists and hope for a peaceful tomorrow. That it's in our interests to support those who are willing to take risks for freedom. It also sends a signal to those on the front line of the freedom movement. The United States hears them. So if you're interested, you ought to go to our website, which is freedomcollection.org. I think you'll find it interesting and a good contribution to the Foundation for Peace. We believe women will lead the democracy movement in the Middle East. And so to this end, we have invited Egyptian women to come to the country to see how civil society is developed in our own society, to introduce them to mentors, and to send them back home encouraged and full of confidence that they've got support here in the United States to take on the tough tasks of helping democracy advance. One of the goals we've established for the women is for them to set up a women's network across Egypt to provide solace, comfort, and strength as they remind the men of Egypt that Egypt needs a society that's pluralistic, that the minority rights are honored, that the rule of law is important, and that democracy yields to peace. We are advancing freedom by supporting our patriots and veterans. We've got what we call the Military Service Initiative, which spotlights effective non-governmental organizations that are helping our vets. In other words, you're giving money to these NGOs. You don't know whether the money is being well spent or not. Well, we're going to help you understand whether it is or not. I often ask, do you miss the presidency? Really, I really don't. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was an unbelievably interesting experience. Yeah, I mean, it was inconvenient to have to stop at some stoplights here coming over here, but I guess I missed that. But I do miss being commander-in-chief a lot. I mean, I admire our military a lot. And the Bush Center will give me, Institute gives me and Laura an opportunity to repay as best as we can our vets. And so to this end, for example, I'm taking a bunch of vets mountain bike riding in the Paladera Canyon. And, I love to mountain bike ride. What I don't like to do is be beaten on a mountain bike ride by a one-legged veteran. But it's likely to happen. We also sponsor a golf tournament for our vets. It's a way to say we love you and we honor you and we thank you. Finally, we believe in free enterprise at the Bush Institute. And we believe our economy can be more robust and therefore provide better opportunities for our citizens. We believe that one of the clearest expressions of freedom is that the aggregate demand of our citizens determine that which is produced. We believe that government is important, but we believe that government ought to trust the people, the collective wisdom of the people. In other words, we trust people when it comes to spending their money, and so should the government. Much of the political debate, and I guess rightly so, is about our balance sheet. It makes sense. I mean, when you look at the debt to GDP, it's pretty high. Or when you think about entitlement, the overhang is daunting. But we believe that in order to solve the balance sheet, first and foremost, you got to grow the private sector. And therefore, the focus ought to be on private sector growth. And that private sector growth will yield increased revenues. The pie grows. The debt relative to the pie shrinks. And with fiscal discipline, you can better solve your current account deficits and your entitlements. This year, the Bush Institute, or this July, the Bush Institute is publishing a book. It's got to be a staggering thing for some of the cynics up here. I publish a book, and now the Bush Institute's publishing a book. They didn't think I could read, much less write a book. But we're publishing a book called 4% Solution. 21 experts, including 5 Nobel laureates, some of whom are here, have provided the content on how to achieve 4% growth in the private sector. Now look, we recognize this is ambitious, but most of the experts believe it's doable. I mean, and so I hope policymakers take time to read what the experts think. I mean, you're going to read about cutting wasteful spending or entitlement reform or immigration reform, increasing trade, energy policy, and of course what we're here to discuss today, which is pro-growth tax policy. What's the best tax policy to grow the private sector? You notice I've been emphasizing private sector growth. I mean, the truth of the matter, if the goal was public sector growth, it'd be a short conference, which is raise taxes. But we believe that the best policy is that which creates a robust private sector. And so what does it mean? Well, first of all, it means that an understanding of how jobs are created, or who creates the jobs. 70% of new jobs in America are created by small business owners. Isn't that an interesting fact? I mean, it's one of the things that makes the economy so vital. Most small businesses pay tax at the individual income tax level. Therefore, if you raise taxes on the so-called rich, you're really raising taxes on the job creators. And if the goal is private sector growth, you got to recognize that the best way to create that growth is to leave capital in the treasuries of the job creators. Secondly, if you raise taxes, in other words, if you let I wish they weren't called the Bush tax cuts. If they're called some other body's tax cuts, they're probably less likely to be raised. But if you raise taxes, you're taking money out of the pockets of consumers. And it's important for policymakers to recognize that all the doubt about taxes causes capital to stay on the sidelines. Uncertainty means the capital, the fuel for private sector growth, simply won't move. Anyway, that's what we're here to discuss. I think you're going to find it to be a fascinating day. I know I am, and I'm looking forward to the discussions. And I'm looking forward to hearing our first speaker. So Christie has caught the attention of a lot of people, including Texans. You'll be happy to hear, Governor. We see your enormous personality, your robust defense of freedom, your belief in the individual, and we admire the courageous stands you take, and we're looking forward to hearing you today. Welcome, Governor of New Jersey.